Okay. So first off, you'll see a different face. So we had a little emergency by my colleague Benoit Chevalier. My name is Eric Moran. I work here at Questel. I lead the subject matter expert team. I have a very small part to introduce, but of course, we're going to leave it to the more important people on the call now with Andres and Tony. You guys can give your introductions.
Thanks. So I'm Tony Afram. I'm one of the founders of IP Quants, and we'll get into the details later on and have more time to introduce myself. But Andres, if you want to say something quickly, and then we can get started.
Sure. My name is Andres Buser. I'm a patent attorney working at Roche at the Basel site, and I'm leading some of our LLM efforts. So later I will have a Q&A session with Tony. So handing back to you, Tony.
Thank you. Okay. So this.
Yep, and I'll give just a quick intro here. So of course, obviously we're very excited. You'll see Tony being in charge of Qthena. Obviously, Questel has put a lot of efforts into AI and these tools around prep and prosecution. So, of course, this is a new product line for us. Tony's kind of spearheading it, and we're super excited to show you some of these kind of co-pilot tools, these auto drafting tools, workflow automation, and more. So, Questel, of course, very excited, and you guys hopefully will learn a lot today. And Tony, I'll send it back to you.
Thank you very much. Okay, thanks a lot for that, Eric. So let's start. So I'm going to start the session by explaining a little bit why we developed and what the value add is of Qthena, as we call the Copilot solution. And after that, we jump into a Q&A session with Andres and myself. So if you just allow me a little bit to introduce you to the topic, why we believe this is needed. So, you know, everybody kind of started with, and some people still today have a lot of paper files still in their offices. Right? So some of you have all of these rows of books and files. And a lot of people thought like, well, we just need to use some Adobe, some digital tool, and that will solve all of our pain points. And we can work digitally and remotely very easily. But then a new problem occurred. And what you see on the screen right now is probably what a lot of you experience every day. You have all of these different Adobe tabs or whatever tool you use. So it actually didn't really solve the problem just switching to going digital. So that's still a very big challenge, because while you're all entangled in these tabs and these windows, you don't really have the time to do the real value add work, get some more insights, be a bit more efficient. And of course, once you open up all of these windows, you have to reopen them next time you come. So this is the part of the problem we're trying to solve with Qthena. And to analyze a little bit more in depth, why does this, pose such a huge problem? And the real problem here is when you analyze the workflows you're dealing with, you have multiple different tools that you use every day. So you're actually jumping from an Adobe PDF viewer, and you think you're going to just stay there and review the office action. But that alone is not enough. You might need to OCR. Now, of course, everybody wants a generative AI tool. So all of these boxes you see on the screen now, basically, you have isolated and siloed all of the tools, and you're jumping around between these different tools. I like to call it, you become professional tool jumper. You go from OCRing to Gen AI, translation, you need to collaborate. So we thought, in order to really solve this, we just need to have all of the relevant tools just basically available in the tool. So under the hood, so to speak. So that's what we have done with Qthena. We provide all of the tool, data, and information in one single user interface, if you like to use that term. And this enables like a lot of use cases, because now we allow you to just focus on the task. So we're not going to have time to go through all of the use cases we enable through the Qthena solution. But you can think of that we are trying to enable all of your workflows from one single user interface. So one is to review documents more efficiently, share and collaborate. Of course, we're going to see some examples to use generative AI to analyze prior art documents, find what discriminates it from your application, and so on. We're not going to have time to go into everything, as I said, but we're going to touch on the key points. So let me just high level introduce you to some of the use cases, and then we're going to jump into a more interactive discussion with Andres. So first and foremost, Qthena brings all of the information you need into one single interface. So all of the documents, insights are just there. And because we also have built a purpose-built digital cockpit, some of the documents are already open. So it really takes it to the next level. It's not just, oh, you have a folder where everything is. No, when you enter the tool, you can already see the office action open as you see on the screen right now. And on the left-hand side, you see some of the stats. I'm going to go later into that. So even pre-preparation steps that are usually not done by you as a patent professional, might be your IT team that does it. If you're a large organization, like OCRing documents is a big pain point. So even that you can just hit the ground running instantly, even these type of automations we take care of behind the scenes for you. So the goal is really you log in, you enter the case number, and you can just get started with analyzing and creating the value for your clients. Of course, one of the key points then is to compare documents side by side. So in the Qthena project, as we like to call it, you can have two different PDF panels side by side, as you see on the screen right now. And we arrange everything that relates to one application in what we call a Qthena project. You can have different views. So even if you're in this one view now, and I on the right-hand side have a particular document that claims, I can, in the same project on a separate view, have the same PDF document, but now I can arrange it next to another different document, which is what happens in real life, right? Sometimes you need to compare the claims to what's said in the office action and sometimes in the drawings. And of course, if you use multiple screens, you can have this open side by side on the screen. The key benefit for you is if you get interrupted now, you can just log in later and continue exactly where you left off. We maintain the state, even down to the scrolling state. So you never waste 4 or 5 minutes again every time you touch a case. It makes it seamless. And instead of forcing the user to go hit some filters if they want some prosecution insights, Qthena will push the most relevant insights to you. So as you read the office action here on the right-hand side, Qthena will present and understands from the case what is the most relevant insights to give to the user right now. In this example we're seeing here, oral proceedings have been scheduled. So Qthena understands who is the examiner in charge and will bring to you all of the examiner's previous summons statistics and oral proceeding statistics. And the value add obviously is, one, you have more confidence in the recommendations you will make to your client. And the other is like, you can truly implement a data-driven strategy. It's seamless. You don't even have to do anything. We send you the most relevant insights. So when you do recommend division application, file more auxiliary requests, and so on, you have a data-driven basis to do this. It will help you gain credibility, but also will help your in-house client to justify the cost internally. And then obviously I'm a former chief IP counsel myself. I'm a patent attorney. I've worked in a law firm. I've never worked on a case that I did just myself. You always have to collaborate with somebody, right? And what happens today is, like, even internally, when you as a partner, you collaborate with an associate, you send back links, maybe, oh, you can find it in OneDrive, or even worst case scenario, you send each other emails with attachments. That's a thing of the past with Qthena. What you see on the screen, when you took the effort to find the relevant drawing, which is on the left-hand side, and the corresponding passage in the description, this is what I see. I took this effort to learn this, spend time. I can just invite my collaborator now, and she will see the same thing. And then she can just comment here and answer my question. So gone are the days where you had spent your first paragraph in an email, oh, please see it, 5 attachments, and please scroll down, and so on. That's over. Just invite them. And even if they're not a paying subscriber, if they don't have a paid seat, no problem. You can invite them as a guest user as well. And you can do the same thing with your in-house inventors. And of course, generative AI. We integrate the most powerful generative AI models out there today. Currently, this is GPT-4 Omni. We have a secure confidential API access. But we're agnostic. So if tomorrow there's a better, more powerful LLM, we will use that one. But what we do the prompt engineering for you, so that when you do come, for example, you look at the drawing and you see a reference sign, and it's easy to verify. You want to ask, okay, what does the reference sign 323 mean? You can simply even drop a screenshot of the drawing, ask the question, and then Qthena is taught to structure its response as a patent professional. So that is what we do for you behind the scenes in the prompt engineering. Okay, so that was like the key use cases probably that you need to be aware of. There is more. We don't have time for all of that. So with that, I would now like to bring Andres into the webinar, and thank him again for taking the time today, Andres. We really appreciate it that you take your time and share your insights. And before we really jump into a couple of use cases and start the discussion how AI can support patent prosecution workflows, maybe you introduce yourself briefly and share your view on how LLM-powered workflows can support you, in your daily work.
Sure. As mentioned, I'm a patent attorney working at Roche, so mainly on biochemistry cases. I'm a biochemist by training, so you see a little bit the field I'm working in. In addition to just my patent attorney role, I lead some of our efforts to integrate LLMs into our work. So we are currently looking to many aspects how LLMs can help reduce attorney hours or lead to improved quality outputs. So these efforts include like document analysis, like case law or contracts. It includes patent searching, patent drafting, and prosecution.
Great, super, thanks. Yeah, there's a lot room for future webinars, I can tell, and thanks for collaborating on some of these other efforts with us here as well at IPIC1. So if we maybe go over into more focus on the patent prosecution side of things, so what would you say are for you the main challenges you face when you want to review an office action?
I mean, for prosecution, I would say the main challenge that I face is to include or to manage retrieving all the required documents quickly and comprehensively. Frequently, as you stressed, these documents are not in a consolidated format, or it might not be OCR'd. So this leads to inefficiencies, and this makes it difficult to manage IP workflows efficiently, not to speak of using LLM to come to faster results.
Yeah, and I think what we're trying to show on this slide right now is that when you come into an EP project here, Qthena has already provided all of the relevant documents. It even when it can renames them to D1, D2, D3, so the paralegal saves that time. And now, how do you see that Qthena can address these challenges that you just described a little bit from your point of view?
One aspect is that all the documents are already very well structured in a nice case file. One challenge that we have in our field is non-patent literature. So a lot of non-patent literature is cited against us. This is a challenge, but in Qthena, you can upload pretty easily the non-patent literature that you're requiring for a case, and then also automatically OCR this. So this is nice. So the aim is really to stay, as you have said, in one system and to be able to do all the steps that you want to do to respond to an office action in this one system. And I believe this is actually what Qthena can offer.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, we really tried hard here to, being professionals ourselves, but also collaborating, with you and other team members at Roche and our other users, is when you come into the tool, as you said, you can upload easily. You have a very, intuitive way to selecting the relevant documents. I'm showing this on the screen right now. We make sure that the human is in the loop and controls what happens. So we ask for the human to have input. So everything that is generated by Qthena is controlled by the human, but also, triggering an OCR process and the like, everything can happen from one single user interface. You don't have to leave it again. So it's good to hear that you see these advantages and make use of them in your daily work. So I always like to say that now with Qthena, everybody can start from a first grade draft, right? Everything, of course, has to be verified. But from your experience using Qthena now for some time, how do you think does the chat functionality we have differ from standard GPT or other AI tools that you have experienced?
So if it comes to the LLM functionality, obviously nowadays everybody includes the LLM function into their tools. Sometimes this works pretty good, sometimes not. In Qthena, one can feel that you optimized it for the patent domain. So the interaction with patent literature is efficient, and getting a relevant LLM output is straightforward. And I believe a reason is that you and your team invested really time into prompt engineering and testing. And it seems to me that the tool, the Ask Qthena tool, works pretty good and out of the box.
Super, yeah, thanks. So exactly right. So what we do today is like we really invest heavily in the prompt engineering, as you said. We try to make Qthena act like a patent professional would act and respond, right? So if we look at Qthena in general, what are other areas you see how Qthena could impact the day how you work or how you work at Roche maybe?
So one example which is interesting to me is the way paralegals or assistants work together with patent attorneys. And I think this could change quite profoundly in the future. So with tools like this, I think paralegals might be enabled to produce draft responses to office actions. And these draft responses also including some scientific or legal argumentation. For example, a paralegal could set up a case in Qthena towards the first due date of a case, maybe in Europe. So the case will be opened, you add the non-patent literature, and you will use a couple of LLM workflows to generate draft responses, maybe to address novelty and inventive step objections. And then you hand over the case to a patent attorney who can then right away start working on a case with all the documents available and already having some draft responses to review and work on that. And I think this can already now be done pretty easily in Qthena.
Great, thanks. Yeah, so you nicely brought everything together that we kind of showed earlier, right? So Qthena is more than just a generative AI functionality. It brings all of the tools, it brings all of the information and the data. So you could create, as you said, a playbook where the paralegal, so upskilling is really happening with these tools, right? So it also makes the paralegal's job more interesting. He can then just, write the first prompts. The tool allows that in the same tool then just to transfer the project to somebody, a patent attorney, she can then take over from the paralegal and so on. So that's good to hear that you're exploring those use cases because, we've always been able to say for a while now that, that's really something you can do now in these days with our solution. So it's good to hear you considering that. And one other thing I think you've seen over the time we've collaborated, like we like to be super transparent what works and what doesn't work with generative AI at this moment. So there's some inherent limitations, to these large language models. And we always like to emphasize this. So that's why we think having Qthena, everything side by side makes the verification process super easy. And it's very important to be able to do that. So maybe if you can say something about that from your point of view, please.
I think it's a big topic. You always have to validate the output of LLMs, even if the output looks always very nice, but you have to do the verification. So what is the basis for its analysis and conclusion? I think it's just an advantage if you have all the documents readily available in the tool. So you can really jump to the relevant passages. You can read it yourself. You can come to your own conclusions and verify the content that was generated. So if you have to jump between systems, this is clearly then a disadvantage, and you will lose the efficiency gain that you might have with such systems. If you can stay on the platform and do it integrated in the platform, this is an advantage.
Great, thanks. So yeah, I mean, what we see here on the screen, for example, is I have the original document here, a PDF. I asked the system to explain to me differences and ask Qthena a response in a structured manner. It's very easy to switch back and forth and kind of verify the output, which is essential. And I think we provide all of the tools doing that. So thanks, Andreas. This concludes our Q&A session. If I just try to sum up some of what Qthena does and what you would need to do if you don't use Qthena. So I usually like to use this summary slide. So really, it's more than just about one little tool. So we analyze workflows. And when you analyze a workflow, you will realize what the real pain points are. And then we just make sure Qthena has all of the tools necessary to solve this workflow. And as you saw from Eric's initial slide, this is just one of the things we're discussing in this webinar, but there are other things Qthena will enable you to do. So if you have further interest, of course, just reach out to us. There are different ways to get in touch. You can follow all of these channels. The presentation will be shared with you and a video recording as well. And I will pause it here. This concludes the webinar. And let's see if there's any input. Any questions you could put in the channel if you want. We will then try to respond to you afterwards. But with that, thank you for taking the time and looking forward to see you in the next one. Thank you.